We have this T-app hack, disassembling the ridiculous app source code. How on earth did people find this publicly exposed database? And as it turns out, it's not so hard. And I want consumers to be aware of how easy it is to get your hands on information like this and why you guys need to be complaining and voting with your dollar. So this guy, Jan Kamrath on Medium, went and deconstructed the T-app to show all of us today how this came to be. So he starts off with a very slight, introduction. Hackers leak 13,000 user photos and IDs from the T-app. It's a Flutter app for Android and iOS, written by a guy with 6 months of programming experience. The T-app allows women to gossip about men on dating portals. I disassembled the source code so you don't have to. Let's do a quick dive through it. Yes, Jan, let's. Look at this. Oh, man. She's so frustrated that she can't dox other men, right? Man, Jake really did her a number. Jake was just a little bit too mean. He wanted to split the bill at the date. And she's like, the only app that I had as a recourse for justice against toxic masculinity is gone. Why is it gone? Well, here we go. Essentially what you do is you get the source code of the app. How? You just go to its website under tforwomen.com. There you find a Google Play Store link that takes us to the store listing. So when you open up, say, your Android browser, or whatever it is, when you open up your Android browser or even on your iPhone, this happens too on the iPhone. You go to the App Store, right? And here, I'll just do this, actually. Why don't I just do this? Let me just go open Google Play. We'll just have a look at it. We'll do it proper, all right? So Google Play, you have Android apps on Google Play like this, okay? And you have it on the iPhone store as well, right? So whether it's iPhone or Google, this is what you're going to see. Now, what you can do is you can download a complete version of the application in a bundle, right? The bundle is installed in your phone. When you hit that install button on the store, it's just installing a bundle of code that's just packaged in. I want you to think about it like a zip file. It's a zip file. It's equivalent to a zip file in many ways, not in all ways, but in many ways. It's just one file containing all the code that nerdy guys like me and people on chat do. All right, so you download this package. So now what this guy did is you can take this package directly from a URL, which is pretty much the same methodology with a few extra steps that you do when you install an application. We're only interested in knowing the app ID, which is com.t.t. There's a programmatic, like a programmer reason why this is important, but essentially the app ID lets you identify code that's intended for this application. It's a unique identifier, as he says there. Once you have this package, you can disassemble the app into source code. So there's a thing called APK or XAPK. For the programmers out there, you know exactly what this means. It includes the content, source code, and config files. And APK Pure helps us by downloading the APK itself. This is an external site that is not something you have access to on your phone, although you could sideload. There's a sideload thing you can do where you can download these APKs and install it outside of the Google Play Store. This is essentially what it is. This is an ecosystem of applications for Android that live outside the Google Play Store. You download the thing, and then what you do is you deconstruct it, you unpack it. So if you think about it like a zip file, you just extract the zip file contents, right? Well, that's great, because now what you can do is you can look at what's inside. So what's inside? All right, so now what we have is Flutter and Dart, right? So the Flutter assets immediately gives away that this app wasn't written in Java or Kotlin, but in Dart using the Flutter framework. The awkward naming of the resources, as much of the resources themselves, already gives some hints into the mindset of who smushed this together. So when you look into it, here's some of the disassembled Java code, and you can see that there's a picture here. There's a placeholder icon. There's a bunch of, on the left side here, there's a whole bunch of like files and folders, right? And so this is what you typically see as a programmer. This stuff is completely hidden to you as a consumer. When you install this app, this stuff you don't see, right? It's just packaged into a nice little bundle. You hit the install button on your phone and it just unpacks it all for you and just kind of hides it away. And you don't have to worry about it as a consumer. But us as programmers, we understand exactly what this is, right? And you can see there's even some AI screenshots, which as far as I can tell, is some attempt to get AI integration into this app. But anyways, let's keep going. So this gets a little bit nerdy just for a second. I'll try my best to explain it in a non-nerdy way. Besides the .env config file in the resources, assets, Flutter assets path, it also contains a strings.xml and resources res values with more configuration strings. In there, we'll find the bucket that held the exposed driver license images and API keys used to export the Firebase store. A bunch of this terminology is gobbledygook if you're just a regular person, right? If you're just like a consumer and you don't know anything about programming. But for us programmers, we know exactly where this leads. And I'm about to show you. You can see there's a Google API key. If you don't know what this means, it should be private. You should never be able to have access to this. However, this is how easy it is to get access to the API key. You have an app ID, you have a crash reporting key, and you have a storage bucket. For a regular consumer, I want you to understand that this isn't normal. These keys and URLs should not exist inside of the code base like this, and they should at the very least not be this easily accessible. It took this person probably the whole of 10 minutes to get access to this data. That's the kind of data that you install on your phone. Having that bucket name and API key in the app config already raises interest of hackers and eyebrows of experienced developers. The .env Flutter config file already had an API endpoint, which should be enough. And so here you have an API. An API is a way to ask a remote server for information about data that you need for the application to run, whether it's on your phone or on a website or some kind of desktop software. Even video games sometimes have APIs. It's access point integrations, access protocol integration, something like that. And so your development environment pointing to this private IP on TCP port 33333, that's commented out here, but you can see exactly what this means. You can start to deconstruct the entirety of the whole program here. The usual practice for the driver's license upload would have been that the main API provides an authenticated URL to the bucket with the credentials and the query string. These credentials would also expire. A time to live policy configuration on the bucket would have automatically deleted the license after a set time frame. None of that happened. What's essentially, if I'm going to break it down simply here, is that normally when you go and upload your ID, like a picture of your, I don't know, passport or something to verify that like you're a woman, in this case, it's going to get uploaded to this guy. It's going to go to this URL, which is a separate server, which is going to take in whatever you upload, and then it's going to run it through a, I don't know what you would want to call it in simple terms, a verification database like, yeah, your passport checks out, you're a woman, etc., etc. And then there's a time to live, which is like a countdown. Think about it like the Mission Impossible thing, you know? Something like this message will self-destruct in 30 seconds. That's what's supposed to happen here. You upload it, you get verified, and then X amount of time later, it gets destroyed. Well, as it so happens, 0 of those things happened. None of that happened. Once you got your information up to this private server, it stays there forever and ever. And it only gets worse because we know that once it's up there, there is no encryption, which means there's no obfuscation of the data. So if someone gets access to it, they would have to know the encryption method to decrypt it. And there's no password. So it's all bad all the way down. So here we go. This is how professionals do it. Here's an Apple's AWS S3 bucket with the artwork of an album in the Apple Music app, returned with AWS S3 credentials. And you can see a bunch of gobbledygook, but for what it means for a consumer is this good. This be good. This means that there are signatures, there's an expiration date, there's some security protocols here, there's an encryption method here. Anybody who's watching this from the outside should not be able to as easily determine. It would take them a very long time to figure out what you're uploading. This is how it should be done. Instead, it was done like this. Ignore these green lines. They don't even matter. They're commented out. The developers of the T app decided against warning messages on Google Cloud and the basic principles of least privileged access in the cloud. Both the resources as well as the app structure are very telling. App source code, structure, and behavior give a view into the author's mindset, that's a typo there, just like artwork does with an artist. So there it is. That's the entirety of it. You don't have to, the rest of it is just him giving his opinion and how stupid it is. And I think we can all agree that our opinions are truly aligned. It's very stupid. It takes like 5 to 10 minutes for someone to get the kind of like the zip source of this application, break it down, and just read the text. Just read the raw text. You don't even have to do any like, when you watch on TV shows or movies where like the hacker's got like the green text flowing, you don't have to do any of that. You just break it apart and you just look at the content inside and away you go. This was ridiculously stupid, but also maybe a little bit of karma, right? Maybe just a little bit of karma, just a little.